Thank you for standing by, and welcome to the Limeade Annual General Meeting of Stockholders conference call. I would now like to hand the conference over to Ms. Elizabeth Bastoni, Chair. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Operator. Good afternoon for our U.S. investors and good morning for our Australian investors. My name is Elizabeth Bastoni, and I am the Chair of Limeade. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to our 2020 Annual General Meeting. Today's meeting will allow those of you online to participate through our virtual meeting platform provided by our share registrar, Link Market Services. In response to the restrictions on travel and gatherings due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have taken steps to discourage a physical public gathering and to encourage attendance at our AGM online. We hope that holding a virtual meeting will allow greater participation and engagement amongst our shareholders today. Before I proceed with the business of the meeting, I would like to introduce my fellow directors who are joining online or who are present with me. Mr. Henry Albrecht, our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Christopher Ackerley, Mr. Steve Hammerslag, Mr. Cameron Judson, Ms. Leah McCallum, and Ms. Lisa McCallum and Ms. Mia Menz, Also attending today is Toby Davis, our Chief Financial Officer and Company Secretary, Neil Teutsch from the company's auditor, Deloitte & Touche. The 2019 annual report has previously been lodged with the ASX. General questions or comments about the reports or any questions for the auditor on the audit and the auditor's report can be asked via the virtual platform. We will address questions at the end of the meeting. On behalf of the board, it is my pleasure to address the shareholders at Limeade's 2020 AGM, our first as a publicly listed company on the ASX. It is now 4 p.m. in Seattle, Washington on the 9th of June 2020, and correspondingly 9 a.m. in Seattle, Australia on 10 June. I have been advised that a quorum is present for the matters to be considered at this meeting. I therefore declare this AGM open and welcome each of you to the virtual platform. The agenda for the meeting today will be as follows. I will give a short address as chair, and then we'll hand over to our CEO, Henry Albrecht. The chair's address will provide a brief overview of Limeade, some highlights from 2019, and then close with comments on our prospects going forward. The CEO will give a short presentation on Limeade's performance for the year and outlook. After these presentations, we will then outline the meeting procedures and continue to the formal items of business. Limeade delivers an integrated suite of mobile-first employee experience software solutions for well-being, engagement, inclusion, and communications to many of the biggest and best companies in the world. In 2019, Limeade increased the total number of enterprise customers by 30 for a total of 173 at the end of the financial year. This represents over 2.6 million users in more than 100 countries. At Limeade, we believe that employees have more voice, power, and career mobility than ever before. Many actively reject toxic, discriminatory, fixed mindset, or command and control company cultures. They demand cultures that, put simply, care. At Limeade, we believe employees, HRs, company leaders, and shareholders all benefit from a coordinated, technology-enabled, caring employee experience. Our platform and solutions are designed to help scale company strategies and values to every employee every day. With Limeade, every employer knows their company cares. Our mission starts at home, ensuring that our more than 270 dedicated employees, known as Limeades, know we care. Reflecting our ethical business practices and the care we provide to our valuable staff, 96% of Limeade employees stated Limeade was a great place to work in 2019. Our award-winning culture has received recognition as the #1 best workplace in Washington by the Puget Sound Business Journal, 5,000 fastest growing companies in America, Deloitte Technology Fast 500, Fortune's Great Place to Work, and Entrepreneur Top Company Cultures. The highlight of 2019 came on 20 December when Limeade debuted on the ASX, having raised 100 million Australian dollars, or the equivalent in US of 68.4 million, of which $34.2 million US in offer proceeds were received by Limeade. We have been diligently deploying funds raised at IPO in line with the company's stated objectives in the prospectus to fuel the creation and continued adoption of Limeade solutions, drive further international expansion, intensify sales and marketing efforts, and continue unrelenting investment in the powerful and innovative Limeade platform. I am pleased with our progress to date in accomplishing these goals. Our financial performance in the 2019 financial year reflected continued momentum in new customer acquisitions, as well as existing customer upsells and expansions that delivered contracted annual recurring revenue, or CAR, of $57.1 million US as at 31 December, an increase of 20% on the prior corresponding period. Limeade met or exceeded key 2019 financial targets, including growth in revenues of 18% on the prior corresponding period to $47.4 million US and 1% ahead of our IPO prospectus forecast. Gross margins of 76.6% were up 3% on the prior corresponding period and 1% ahead of our IPO prospectus forecast. Our pro forma EBITDA loss of $2.1 million US was a $1.4 million US improvement on the prior year and a $2.7 million US improvement on the IPO prospectus forecast. These results highlight the seasoned and disciplined approach taken by our leadership team, led by company founder and CEO, Henry Albrecht. Limeade is committed to strong corporate governance. The cornerstone of good corporate governance is a talented, highly effective, and functioning board combined with sustainable business practices. Together, they are critical in building long-term value for Limeade customers, our stockholders, our Limeades, the wider community, and our environment. In December 2019, we appointed new directors to the board. In addition to myself, Mia Menz, also based in the U.S., has over 20 years' experience, including a CEO role in an HR technology company and a number of other corporate leadership positions. Our two new Australian non-executive directors, Lisa McCall and Cameron Judson, have collectively 50 years' experience across a range of industries. The newly appointed directors bring additional skills and industry expertise and are a welcome addition to our Limeade board. Limeade has adopted and substantially complies with the ASX Corporate Governance Principles and Recommendations, 3rd edition, to the extent appropriate to the size and nature of our company's operations. The board intends to adopt the new 4th edition ASX Corporate Governance Principles and Recommendations released in February of 2019 during this 2020 financial year. Our Limeades are foundational to the continued success of Limeade as a publicly listed company on the ASX. Limeade employed 258 employees as at 31 December 2019, 18% more than the prior corresponding period. Our workforce consists of 49% women and 51% men. The majority of Limeades are full-time employees, and Limeade maintains a safe and healthy workplace for all our employees. The Kaleidoscope Council is our internal diversity and inclusion council formed by volunteer Limeades. The mission of the Kaleidoscope Council is to drive intentional actions on topics related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice, including but not limited to the sponsorship of popular Limeade employee resource groups, including Limeade Women, Developing Professional, African American, and Working Parents. Limeade is committed to supporting charitable causes within the community in which we operate and across the globe. In 2019, Limeade and Limeades made over 200 individual donations across 150 charities. Limeade is also committed to sustainable business practices. As a technology-based software as a service organization, Limeade imparts an environmental footprint that is very small, consisting of the energy used by our offices, third-party cloud-based computing data centers, and the typical consumables of an office-based business, including travel. With particular reference to travel, the company makes extensive use of various video conferencing platforms to minimize the need for travel to multiple sites, thereby reducing our reliance on commercial air travel. Now, more than ever, It is a time for companies to show that they don't just make and sell products. Rather, they stand for something, not just in the U.S. and Australia, but around the world. For those companies who truly care deeply about their employees, Limeade offers the leading global employee experience platform with real-time insights into communications about and actions to improve the well-being, engagement, inclusion, retention, and performance of their people. We look forward to another year of serving a growing customer base, helping them realize the return on investment of care and aligned action in the employee experience space. I would like to take the opportunity to thank my fellow directors for their efforts over the past few months as we transitioned from a privately held to a publicly traded organization. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank the Limeade management team and all Limeades for their passion, belief, and commitment to our company. I remain confident in the long-term growth of the business and our ability to drive value for all stakeholders over the long term. I will now hand over the meeting to the Chief Executive Officer, Henry Albrecht, who will present a brief overview of Limeade in 2019, an update on the company's strategy, and our outlook for the remainder of the 2020 financial year. Henry?
Thank you very much. And operator, we are ready to proceed with the presentation. Pardon me. Okay, we are ready to proceed. Please take careful reading of the introductory slides, including the important notice and disclaimer on slide 3. And we are ready to proceed to slide 4. Thank you. Operator, can I get okay, we're here. Thank you. All right, so I will begin the agenda. Thank you for your patience with our remote. We were hoping to be there in Sydney, and obviously reality sometimes gets in the way. So moving forward, having seen the agenda to slide 5, a quick summary. Limeade is a provider of employee experience solutions, as Elizabeth described, and these are the core metrics of our business in terms of employees and users, and a little overview of our approach and how much has been invested into the Limeade platform, US $77 million as at 31 December 2019, with strong 5-year compound annual growth rate. On slide 6, you can see a summary that we continue to grow and receive not just awards and recognition in the private sector in the U.S., but through our IPO on the ASX, and added 30 new customers, including direct, indirect, North American, and international customers, with continued innovation and a dedication to ESG, or environment, social, and governance efforts. On slide 7, you can see that we are very proud of the discipline that we've shown, and our CFO, Toby Davis, helping guide us to achieve or exceed all of the key metrics we put forth in our pro forma prospective forecast on this page, including contracted annual recurring revenue, subscription revenue, earnings before income tax, depreciation and amortization, NPAT, gross margin, cash, and operating cash flow. Proceeding to slide 8, I would say we've seen strong momentum across our operating metrics in 2019. Very proud of the efficiency of our sales and marketing engine, our customer retention, the deal sizes that we're seeing, as well as the recurring revenue, and continue to invest in enterprise software as a service business to some of the biggest and best companies in the world. As you can see on slide 9, we have seen a significant growth trajectory, even going back all the way to fiscal year 2014, of a compound annual growth rate of 25%, and we continue to see growth as well all the way through 2019. And then on slide 10, we see a great summary of some of the awards that we achieved in 2018 and 2019 and expect similar results. Slide 11 is a summary of some of the things we do to show care for our employees internally at Limeade, as well as the gender and diversity and values of the organization. Values drive our intentional culture, and our intentional culture is a key to the business success we see. Moving on to growth strategies and trading update. Ahead through slide 12, the agenda slide to slide through 13. There's been no material change in our growth strategies. We are committed to new customer acquisition and expansion into key markets, upsells to existing customers, expanding the platform offering, and looking at both organic and inorganic growth trajectory through acquisitions. And now I'd like to move on to a trading update. And I'm sitting here with Toby Davis, our CFO. First quarter highlights, we did sign 5 new enterprise contracts, including a single enterprise customer who's a leading player in the financial services sector. We had $1.9 million in operating cash flows, which demonstrates financial and strategic discipline, with cash receipts of $25.4 million recorded and $32.4 million on hand in cash in the bank with no debt. And we, due to COVID-19, had to and got to reimagine our Limeade Engage conference, and reimagining it as a virtual series of webinars allowed us to see registrations increase 258% on the prior corresponding period. Our COVID-19 specific initiatives include the creation and promotion of activities that help employers deal with COVID-19 as well as their employees, from simple basics like social distancing, face masks, and hand washing, to some more nuanced topics like how to be effective working from home and how managers can enhance team performance in a remote environment. We also delivered care and crisis initiatives, including a free subset of the Limeade platform capabilities focused on helping large populations who are not yet Limeade customers, and we've made this available to over 200,000 people in recent months. We've also seen significant upticks or increases in participation on the Limeade platform and have laid no one off, and have seen strong continued employee engagement in our workforce, despite what has been a very stressful period of time for the world. And I would say particularly in the U.S. faces special challenges, and Seattle as one of the first cities who, I guess, we're a hotbed of COVID-19 early on. We saw a significant and positive response from our workforce to that, and have seen our top 20 customers on average have 24 months remaining on their contract as at 31 December 2019, and we have not experienced a material increase in customer terminations or non-renewals, churn. And we have seen some delays in finalizing contracts with some new customers who were in advanced contract discussions. Sales activity is solid, but there has been some impact to the velocity of upsell and new sales cycles. Global changes post-COVID-19, significant and lasting effects on the employee experience software are anticipated. We believe that discussions we are having with our customers around employee emotional well-being, financial well-being, health, preventive care are accelerating and will continue to accelerate in the aftermath of COVID-19. Moving forward to slide 16, Limeade reaffirms our FY20 prospectus forecasts for revenue, earnings before income taxes, depreciation and amortization, and NPAT. Our focus is continuing on elevating employee experience for the largest companies in the world, leveraging our core data science and technology pertaining to well-being and employee and engagement. And as you can see on the right side of slide 16, the reaffirmation of 56.1 million in revenue, negative 10.7 in EBITDA, and negative 12.4 in net profit after tax. So I would like to thank you for listening to that, and we will proceed to the next item in the agenda.
Thank you, Henry.
Oh, resolutions, yes.
Yeah, so at this point, the notice of the meeting was distributed on the 15th of May, 2020 in Australia, and I propose to take the notice of the meeting as read. Before moving on to the various resolutions to be considered today, I will now briefly outline the meeting and voting procedures for today's meeting. As set out in the notice of meeting, each of the resolutions will be conducted by a poll. The results of the poll will be released on the ASX and will be available on the company's website as soon as possible after the meeting. As chair of the meeting, I will vote all directed proxies in accordance with the directions provided by shareholders. I am also holding undirected proxy in my capacity as chair of this meeting, and I intend to vote all such proxies in favor of all resolutions. As shareholders, you can cast your vote using the electronic voting card that you received when you registered via the online virtual platform. You will be able to vote between the commencement of the AGM and the closure of voting as announced during the meeting. If you are a CDI holder attending the online meeting, you will not be able to vote using the online voting system and must have submitted your CDI voting form ahead of the meeting in accordance with the procedures in the notice of the meeting. If you have any questions about casting your vote online, please refer to the virtual meeting online guide that was issued with the notice of meeting, or call Link Market Services on the number set out in the guide or on the screen in front of you. We will display the number of proxy votes received for each resolution, as well as the terms of each proposed resolution ahead of voting on each resolution. Regarding shareholder questions, please ensure that you registered through the webcast as a shareholder and not as a guest, as only shareholders, their attorneys, proxies, and authorized company representatives and CDI holders are entitled to ask questions. If you wish to ask a question, please submit questions by selecting the Ask a Question tab located in the upper right corner of the screen. You can submit questions now or any time prior to the vote on the relevant resolution, and they will be dealt with at the appropriate time. If you have a question already prepared, please submit it now so that as many questions as possible can be answered. Questions must relate to the relevant item of business. There will be an opportunity to ask general questions toward the end of the meeting. I ask that you keep your questions short and to the point so that as many shareholders as possible can have the chance to answer a question. All questions will go through to Toby Davis, our CFO and Company Secretary. As chair, I will then read out the question, and I will either answer the question or direct it to the most appropriate person to answer. We reserve the right to rule out questions not relating to the AGM or out of order. We will endeavor to answer all questions in the allotted time today. I will now move on to the business of the meeting, which brings me to the first resolution. As the first resolution relates to the election of myself, I will hand over to Henry Albrecht to cover Resolution 1.
Thanks, Elizabeth, and thanks, operator. If you could please display slide 19, and I will read Resolution 1 relating to election of Elizabeth Bastoni. The first resolution of the meeting is to consider and, if thought fit, to pass the following resolution as a separate ordinary resolution: that Ms. Elizabeth Bastoni, being a director who was appointed by the directors on 2 December 2019, and whose appointment expires at the conclusion of the annual meeting of the company, and, being eligible, offers herself for re-election, be re-elected as a Class 1 director of the company. The board unanimously recommends security holders vote for this resolution. The resolution is set out on the slide. I will now address any questions regarding this resolution. This is display slide 20. We have received, thank you, it appears there are no questions. I will now declare the poll open. I put it to meeting resolution 1. The proxies received are on the screen. On your electronic voting card, please now select for or abstain next to resolution 1. I will now hand back to Elizabeth to continue the meeting.
Thank you, Henry. Resolution 2, election of Lisa Mccall. The second resolution, please, and we're looking at slide 21. The second resolution of the meeting is to consider and, if thought fit, to pass the following resolution as a separate ordinary resolution. That Ms. Lisa Mccall, being a director who was appointed on 2 December 2019 and whose appointment expires at the conclusion of the annual meeting of the company, and, being eligible, offers herself for re-election, be re-elected as a Class 1 director of the company. The board unanimously recommends security holders vote for this resolution. This resolution is set out on the slide. I will now address any questions regarding this resolution. This is, please operator, please display slide 21. Thank you. It appears there are no questions. Operator, please display slide number 22. I put to the meeting resolution number 2. The proxies received are on the screen. On your electronic voting card, please now select for or abstain next to resolution 2. Thank you. Operator, please display slide number 23. We'll move to resolution 3, grant of options to Henry Albrecht. The third resolution of the meeting is to consider and, if thought fit, to pass the following resolutions as a separate ordinary resolution. That for purposes of ASX Listing Rule 10.14 and for all other purposes, approval is given for the company to grant options to purchase 371,000 shares, equivalent to 371,000 CDIs, to the Chief Executive Officer of the company, Mr. Henry Albrecht, under the 2019 Omnibus Incentive Plan, as described in and on the terms and conditions set out in the explanatory memorandum. The board unanimously recommends security holders vote for this resolution. The resolution is set out on the slide. I will now address any questions regarding this resolution. Thank you. It appears there are no questions. Operator, please display slide number 24. I put to the meeting resolution number 3. The proxies received are on the screen. On your electronic voting card, please now select for, against, or abstain next to resolution 3. Thank you. The poll will remain open until 5 minutes after the close of the meeting to allow you to complete your voting on your electronic voting card. As I mentioned earlier, the results of this meeting will be announced to the ASX as soon as the votes have been counted and verified. This completes the formal business of the meeting, and I will now address any general questions that we have received. If there are any questions, we ask that you submit them now. So if there are any further queries, I encourage you to send them to our investor email address, which is available on the company website. This concludes the business of the meeting, and I now declare this AGM closed. Thank you for your time and your continued engagement and support in these challenging times for everyone.